I read quite a few books during the month of January, so I'm going to do a flip through of my reading journal and I'm going to talk a little bit about the books I read, so stay tuned. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Or if you're new, welcome. My name is Tracy and I am a girl with plans. I want to thank you all for pressing that play button today. And if you find that you enjoy my content, I would really appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button. So today's video is a reading recap. I will be flipping through my 2024 reading journal, showing you how I have filled out the books I read thus far, and giving you a little brief review of the 10 books that I managed to read in the month of January, which is a lot for me. I'm usually a couple books a month type gal, if that, but yeah, I was really motivated in the month of January. So this is a DIY reading journal. I have a complete setup video of this on my channel. I will link it down below. I use, obviously, the cover and the disc are from Happy Planner. This is a scrapbook page that I got from Michael's. Everything in here is kind of a hodgepodge from a lot of different things. I printed a lot of stuff myself on 32-pound paper, and a lot of the inserts that I printed were those that I created in Microsoft Word or on Canva. Most of that is kind of gone over in detail in that setup video, so I'm not really going to explain a lot of that when I get to the pages. I also use some outdated Happy Planner pages that I repurposed either for my review pages or for like my monthly reading tracking. So we'll see those as we get to it. All right, so we are gonna kind of start with my bookshelf. So what I decided for my bookshelf was that I was going to color code it by month. So right now, for the month of January, which I created a key, I hand drew a key up here. For the month of January, I did blue. I will probably do a pink for the month of February. I'm just using mild liners right now because they're just easy to color with. So yeah, there we go. And I just write the titles in it. That's why I made these books a little bit bigger so I could actually write the titles because I don't have the smallest handwriting. So that's why they are a little bit larger than a lot of bookshelves you might see on YouTube or Instagram. But yeah, this is definitely something that I created in Canva, I believe. I created one last year in Microsoft Office. So I've done both. But yeah, I did it this way this year to kind of add all the little images in there as well. So here is my reading log. Of course, as you can see, I use it as a 2-page spread. I actually have an insert that I've already created in case I fill this up. But these are the books that I read, y'all. So what I kind of do is I just put the book covers in here. I measured them out. I think they're like 1.3 inches in height and then whatever width they are. But you can see some of these were older printouts because they were on my TBR list for a while. So they're a little bit larger. And then I just have my stars here. So that's my star rating. And with that said, we are going to talk quickly about the books and then we'll kind of get into my trackers. I think that's the way I want to do it. So I have my kind of quick glance here, and then I get into back here is where I do my quick reviews, and you can see they are very quick reviews. I only like write down what I thought about the book. I kind of showed you guys in my 2023 flip through that I do pages, like decorative pages for like series where I kind of get a little bit more in depth with my reviews. And if I read a really good single standalone book, I might do that as well. I'm pretty much a series person, so I read a lot of series. But this suffices for me just to kind of give my overall impression of the book. And I have my own star rating because, you know, stars are kind of like whatever, it's like a personal thing. So my 5 stars is I would read it. I would reread it again. That's pretty much the biggest distinction between a 5-star and a 4-star for me. The other thing is with the 5-star book, I am definitely going to probably be seeking out additional books from the author. Because even though it's a good book, it's probably based on the author's writing and I'm probably enjoying that as well. So for a 3-star, it's meh. There was like a moderate connection, so it kept me going and I definitely wanted to finish the book. A 2-star, I didn't really want to finish the book. It was a struggle. I was kind of bored, but I did end up finishing it because I kind of wanted to see if it got better. So I was still holding out hope that it might get a little bit better. You know those books that you're reading it and you're like, okay, this is really boring, but there's enough there that keeps me wanting to see if there's more. That's kind of like the 2-star for me. And the 1-star is just WTF. Like, why did I read this book? And I should have like put it down a long time ago. I also added a spice rating because some of the books I read this month, like there's always, in your fantasy books, a lot of them have a little bit of spice in it, but some of these were like, woo, over the top spicy. They were hot. So I was like, I need to start adding some spicy ratings to it. So 5 is like, is there even a plot? 4, is there some plot? There's probably a decent amount of a plot actually, but there is a lot of smut and or graphic smut for a large percentage of the book. Medium is kind of balanced. Mild is, hey, it's kind of spicy, but the plot is kind of the main thing. Throughout the whole story. Maybe that's how I should say the plot is the main thing throughout the whole story. Because there's some of these where there was plot through the first half and then there was nothing the second half. And then one is it's like PG-13 and then, 9. And again, I created all of these little stickers on Canva. Canva is great. It is absolutely great. A lot of this stuff is like Canva premium where you have to like do a subscription. I like subscribe for like a month or 2 at a time. Do what I need to do and then like pause the subscription and then sign up when I need to make more stuff because I just don't have time to keep making stuff. So I just figured that's how to get my best bang for my buck. But I just made little icons to say whether or not it was an audiobook, a Kindle. So I have like the little book with the headphones for audio, and these were on Canva. So I just like typed in audiobook icon and it popped up. And then the Kindle, and I also have an icon for a physical book, but I didn't read any physical books, so you won't see that. And then I did a star, just got an image of a star and an image of a chili pepper, and then like grouped them together and did, so that way I can have like a little sticker there where I can write my star rating and my spice rating next to each one. All right, so let's quickly go over the 10 books that I read. The Woman in Me by Britney Spears. We've all heard of it. It's a memoir. I don't really like rating memoirs because, they're definitely like personal to the author. So it feels kind of, I don't know. And I gave it 3.5 stars. I feel bad giving it 3.5 stars, but I just wasn't wowed by the book. And that might be because of all the hype from the book, because, it's Britney and all her Britney fans. There was so much hype surrounding the book. That's probably why it was rated lower than maybe it would have been. I don't know. Unfortunately, there's no way to know. I will say the audiobook, 2 thumbs up. Michelle Williams does the narrating of the audiobook. She is fantastic. It was a great listen. I do recommend listening to it on audiobook. However, if that's not your thing, it's probably fine as well. But I think the audiobook version probably kept me a little bit more entertained than I would have been otherwise. Because it still took me 6 days to listen to a book that was 5 hours and 31 minutes. So that's why I could not give it higher. To me, it was probably more of a 3-star, but because of the audio, I gave it the extra 0.5 star. The next one was Finley Donovan Jumps the Gun. I love these series. It is a fabulous series. They kind of say it's more of like a mystery type thing, but it's like a fun mystery. So they basically think that she's like, she's mistaken for a contract killer, and things happen that kind of even prove that she might be a contract killer, even though she's not. But it's definitely very funny. I think I mentioned during either my setup or my 2023 review that there used to be like a genre that everybody used to refer to as chick lit, like chick literature, like chick lit. And it was kind of those like funny, like female driven stories that was kind of light, fun to read. I would kind of throw that in that kind of category. I like highly recommend the Finley Donovan series. It is such a fun read. I actually been listening to them on audiobook. I love the narrator. I think it's fun. And with this book, I actually laughed out loud quite a few times. So that's why I like listening to it. And yeah, so I would recommend these books. I gave it 4 stars, and the reason why I did not give it 5 stars is because I just feel like those types of books, like those fun, quirky books, it's hard to give them 5 stars. Well, for me, because it takes a lot for me to give a book 5 stars. So unfortunately, even though these books is like one of the ones I recommend to like everybody, and I absolutely love it and cannot wait for the 4th book to come out, I just can't give it above a 4 star just because it's one of those like fun little cheeky books. All right. And obviously in that book, there was like no spice. I mean, there was some like, you know, there was a love interest and stuff like that, but all right. And then Iron Flame. So this one, I'll just say I started reading it on December 27th and did not finish it until January 14th. Yes, it is a long book, but it was very, very slow. And it was very slow at the beginning. So it really took me a long time to get through the first 10%. I mean, I was like reading very few pages a day just because I was getting tired because it was kind of boring. And I don't know. So this one's tough for me. I still gave it 4 stars, but I think the 4 stars is because of the ending. There were some like action and like high points throughout the book, but then there were a lot of dragging moments throughout the book too. So even after you got past the slow part in the beginning, it got slow in the middle. And then there were even some parts in like toward the back half of the book that was like slow. It was just a lot of explaining and introducing new characters. And I like the new characters, but it just slowed everything down. So this was not as good for me as the first book. I think I read a review where someone said it felt like a setup for the 3rd book, and I would kind of agree to that. So yeah, I gave that one 4 stars still. The next book, as I finally read From Blood and Ash, I had DNF'd that book back in June. I had read like 10% and couldn't get through it. It was definitely, I just wasn't in the mood to read this type of book. I needed something that kind of started out strong. You know, you get into those reading moods, you need something to start out strong right away, which same thing with Iron Flame. But I went back to it. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go back to it. And it still dragged for a little bit past that 10%. But then once it got going, and I was hooked. I was reading for a pretty long time. I read the book in 4 days, and it's a 622 page book. So like I said, that first time when I picked it up, the first 15% probably took me like probably most of the time to read it. And then I flew through the second half, the last 80% because it just picked up so much. I will say, like, there's like a big shocking reveal at the end of the book where the quote unquote bad guy is revealed. I had figured that out pretty early on, but it didn't ruin the book or anything like that for me. And I will be reading the 2nd book and maybe continuing the series. So we'll see. The 5th book was Venco. And it's Venco because it's like Coven. So it's like a witchy book, but it's not very witchy. The premise is you need like 7 witches to like rebirth this coven type thing. And they have a deadline to find. There's like 5 already found and they need to find 2 more. So that's the premise of the story. I thought it was fun. It was a light read. Again, I read it in 2 days. It was only 400 or just under 400 pages, so it wasn't that bad. I gave it 3.5 stars. And the reason why is because, okay, so there's like no world. There really isn't any world building in this because this is like more of a magical realism type book. It takes place here. Like there is no different world or anything to learn. So that makes it easy. But being that you're like following like these witches, there isn't that much power. There isn't that much witchy stuff going on, which is fine. But then there's like a witch hunter that's trying to stop them from discovering the 7th witch. Because if they discover the 7th witch, like I said, now this coven is formed. But there isn't really that much action there either. It's very, it was like wonk wonk. Like I expected this huge scene and it was like maybe a chapter and I'm like, what? Oh, come on. So yeah, I'm going to probably read the 2nd book because I think this is going to be a series because I'm kind of interested to see what happens. And, you know, I will say there is potential for it to get a lot more exciting now. But yeah. The next book I read was primarily due to a challenge that I was completing this month. And I'll get to that when we flip through the challenges. It was Into Their Woods. Never heard of it. I just saw it was a fantasy book. It had decent reviews. I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. It was like werewolf, paranormal type read. Yeah, I gave it 3 stars. I did say it was a level 4 spice, but the spiciness probably happened to last 20% of the book. And if you look at my like spicy median, then that would be like more of like a 3. But oh my gosh, once it got spicy, it was like, whoa. So, so yeah, 3.5, 4, definitely there just because of like how much spice was at the end. But this was an interesting book. It's werewolves. It's like, what do they call it now? They used to say reverse harem, but now it's like, why choose? So you have like the female character and she has like multiple men that she can like choose from kind of thing. So that's kind of the basis of the story, except the men are werewolves. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that. The more in-depth reviews you can find on Amazon or the synopsis. If I start chatting about it, we'll be here all day. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna read the second book in the series, which is not out yet, because I'm intrigued by how it ended. So yeah, we'll see. I don't have high hopes though. We'll see though. 6 Scorched Roses. This was more of a novella because it was only 187 pages. This is by Carissa Broadbent. And if you did see my 2023 reading recap, my favorite book of 2023 was A Serpent and the Wings of Night. Absolutely loved the story. Loved it from beginning to end. Even the follow-up I really, really liked. I rated that book even higher than ACOTAR. What? I don't know. It's just, I liked the action in the book. That's me. Like, I like a lot of action and stuff like that in addition to the romance. So yeah. But I haven't rated it yet because like as much as I want to give it 5 stars, like, can you give a novella 5 stars? It's like 187 pages. The reason why I really enjoyed this was because as short as it was, there was a clear beginning, a clear end. There was world building because this is a fantasy. So there was enough world building, but not too much because you didn't want to be like too wordy when you're trying to keep it short. There was the romance, there was the action, there was the jaw-dropping moments. I think it had it all. So I might even have to give it 5 stars. But with that said, you'll see, I don't think I can rate this. I don't think I can compare this to the other books when I'm looking at it. Like for like my favorite book of the month. I don't know. We'll see. The next book I listened to was Butcher and Blackbird, which everybody kind of describes as a dark rom-com. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. I don't read rom-coms, so I didn't see it, but maybe I don't know. I will say the audio version again came highly recommended, and I highly recommend it. It's like 2 narrators, so you have the male narrator and then the female narrator. And that worked well, especially the male narrator was awesome. I'm not sure if I would have, again, this is another book that I think listening to it on audio kept me until the end because I'm not sure I would have stuck with it if I was reading it, because the premise is very intriguing. So you have a male and a female serial killers. They're more of like vigilante serial killers because they only kill other serial killers. So like think Dexter, if you've seen that show type thing. But they didn't know each other, but then they crossed paths when they were both kind of going after the same serial killer. So then they kind of created a game where once a year they will try to kill the same person. They won't find out who that person is until like the game starts. And then whoever kills them first like wins for that year. So yeah. Sounds super intriguing. There are trigger warnings. Some are kind of hilarious, and then some, I guess, could be considered serious. So yeah, that's where I guess people kind of consider this kind of like a dark romance kind of comedy. I don't know. I mean, I did laugh a few times, but yeah, I don't know what to say about it. I enjoyed it, but I feel like there were parts during the first half of the book where I was like, do I want to continue this? It just felt like it wasn't progressing like I wanted it to. Like there would be like a year and then it'll be like another year. And it's like, okay. So I don't know. Definitely a slow burn, but then once you got to the end of that candle, woo, you talk about graphic. It got graphic. So that's why that was the 4 chili pepper. But kind of like Into the Woods, if that's not your thing, you can easily skip it because it's all together. Like like the first 60% of the book, again, 50 to 60% had no spice whatsoever. I wouldn't say whatsoever, but no real in-depth spice. But then it picks up toward the end, so you can easily skip it if you want to, versus it being like throughout the book and you can't skip it because then you would lose the plot. I hope that explained it right. Then I read Glow, which is the 4th book in the Plated Prisoner series. I read the first 3 books in 2023. I am kind of giving them all a semi-average rating. I think book 3 was definitely like a 4.5 stars type thing because it had the action. Book 3 went back down to very little action and it just was super wordy. It was 738 pages and it could have easily been 500. There was just so much in here that we didn't need to know. There was some backstories that I felt like they thought would help character growth or whatever, or help you relate to the character. It didn't. Well, it didn't for me. So I still gave it 3 stars because I'm still intrigued. So I did start reading this last year, early or middle of last year, and I stopped reading it because it does start out so slow. But when I picked it up this year, I had to start back from the beginning just to remember what was going on. So I did almost DNF it, but I picked it back up. I'm glad I did. I'm curious to see how it's going to end. Unfortunately, it was only supposed to be 5 books and now it's going to be 6. And I say unfortunately because I feel like it probably could have been just 5 books. I'm kind of worried that it might drag out and 5 and 6 might be a little, so we'll see. And then the very last book I read was Half a Soul. This is a book I also knew nothing about. I just saw it like recommended on a whim. And then I just put in the request through the library and it just became available. I'm like, sure, I'll read it. This was fun. It was a very fun read. It was a light read. It's like a historical romantasy, which romantasy is like a romantic fantasy or a fantasy romance. So it's kind of like, think of like Bridgerton with a little bit of magic and maybe some evil fairies in it who really don't make that much of an appearance. It takes place in the real world. So, well, a real world magic, but it takes place in London. So again, there really isn't that much world building. So you don't really have to like drag through all of that. But it was easy. It did feel like a really young read, like more of like a young adult type book. But it was fine. I gave it 3.5 stars. But at the same time, I think this is part of a series and I'm probably not going to continue the series. I think it read fine as a standalone book, which is also why I'm probably not going to continue it as a series, because I felt like, okay, I got the ending I needed. I don't need it to see it go on any further. So we'll see. That might change. So with that said, now I'm just going to show you how I tracked these really quick. So like I said, I did 10 books for 3,477 pages for 22 hours and 53 minutes of audio. So I do separate the books read versus the audio. And the way I track this is I track this on my calendar. So this is where I write when I start and finish it. And this is the TBR. You can see I only had 3 books on my TBR, and one of them I ended up nixing after I started listening to the audiobook. That was Atlas 6. Again, I don't really like listening to fantasy books on audio, so I might try that again on the Kindle, but right now I just don't have any interest. But that's what I do. And then here I kind of write the pages. So you can see this is just sloppy like notes. I just write the pages. And then if it was an audiobook, I write the time. So that way I can kind of get my totals. And then I do that also on my monthly recap. So then I transfer all the information here and I take this and put that here just for a quick recap. So that's like my monthly wrap up totals. So here is another tracker. And this time I'm tracking audio versus Kindle. And if I ever read a physical, I would add that one to it. So that's what I distinguish with the colors. Obviously, I read a lot of Kindles. So the other things that I created this, like I said, this is something I created myself. I put in prompts or categories I thought I wanted to like capture. And what I have here is favorite book. Like I said, the novella probably might have been one of my favorite books, but I just feel like it's hard for that to compete with like a full-on book. So I didn't really keep that in the running for the other ones. So my favorite book I put for the month of January is From Blood and Ash. My least favorite was Into Their Woods. Put The Woods, but it's Into Their Woods. The longest book was Glow, which was The Plated Prisoner. Shortest book was Scorched Roses. And my most read genre was fantasy. I did not list a favorite character. And then my most surprising book, I put Iron Flame, mainly because of how slow it was, but also because of the ending. And then the books I abandoned was The Cursed, which was the second book in the Coven series. I got 25%, so that is a true abandoned book. I don't see myself going back to that. The second one I might go back to because I was listening to the Encyclopedia of Fairies on audio, and I might try that again in Kindle because that's like a highly rated book and it's supposed to be fun, so it might be better read than listened to. So that's that. Okay, so this is my battle of the books. You can see I just put my favorite book there. So you can kind of see how I'm kind of like jotting down the stuff in my monthly section. And then I can kind of use that onto my trackers. So that's what I have there. My 5-star. I haven't filled out. I have to figure out if I'm going to give the novella 5 stars or not. And then here is my other reading tracker. So this was 52 books. And I just colored this in by genre. So this is where I'm now going to track my genres, at least visually. And I am also writing the numbers here so that way I can kind of keep track. I don't have to keep counting to make sure I've accounted for all the books that I've read thus far. So again, this is something I created. The book bingo, I do need to color in one more. Okay. So again, I think I went over this during the setup, but so far that would mean I have achieved 6 of these. So no bingos yet. Didn't expect to have a bingo yet. But this, I created all the prompts myself, so it shouldn't be too hard for me to color them in. There were a couple that I kind of threw out there that are wild cards that might be harder to color in. I did have a tracker during my setup that you're not going to see here, and that was read the colors of the rainbow. And the reason why you're not going to see this here is I took it out because I feel like it would be more beneficial if I like read physical books, like if I went to the library and like perused like the fantasy section to pick a book by color. I think that would be fun. But with Kindle, I feel like it's almost becoming another one of these where I read the book and then see if it fits any of the prompts. So I just took it out. I did create this. So this is new. This was not in my setup video. I went on Goodreads. There was like all the award winners. I think there were 3 or 4 more. I knew I wasn't going to read them, so I didn't include them on here. There are some on here I don't think I'm going to read either. But I wanted at least enough to fill up the page. But I've already, like I said, read Britney Spears, and then last year I read Fourth Wing. But I like this, and I wanted this here because these are actual books suggestions. They're book suggestions. So if I don't know what I want to read, or if I want to like switch genres for something, then I can just pull up here and say, hey, let's read something on this list. A to Z challenge. I think there's, let's see, there's 8. So 2 of them had the same letter as the other ones. I go by the first letter, but like this was From Blood and Ash, so I didn't count the F for from. I just did Blood and Ash. I mean, I could have easily did F, but I just felt like that one would have worked. I wonder if I could, because I think there is another B. I might switch those. just to like give myself an extra one, right? So I think I'm gonna move from Blood and Ash here and then put Butcher and Blackbird there. Yeah, and then I'll have 9. But like the definitely doesn't count. So the doesn't count. Finley Donovan could have gone also an F, but all of her books are Finley Donovan something. So I just put Jumps the Gun. But everything else is kind of self-explanatory. This is also a new challenge that I added to my journal in the month of January that was not during the setup. This one and the next one. This I just printed out. I found this one online. It's the 52 Book Club Reading Challenge, and the URL is www.the52book.club. Again, right now, the way I'm doing it is reading the book and then seeing if it fits in any of the prompts. But at some point, if I'm like in a reading slump and I need to pick a book, I might come in here, look at some of the prompts and find something for it. Some of these are pretty easy. Like an apostrophe in the title might not be, but like includes a wedding. A sticker on the cover might be kind of hard to figure out, but something like that. And then the other one is the Buzzword Reading Challenge. I have to find out who is the one that is sponsoring this challenge. You can find this online. I will try to link where I got this actual printable from because a lot of them just had the prompts listed and I wanted like a printable to print out. So like I printed out the printable and they have prompts for each month. So for the month of January, it was there, spelled all different ways. And that's why I picked Into Their Woods. I literally went onto Amazon Kindle search and searched for the words there. And that's how I picked the book. So this actually, I think it is going to get me to read books that I would not have usually read. So for the month of February, I actually already have the book on my TBR. So here is February somewhere. A Court This Cruel and Lovely is going to be February because the prompt is positive words. And I feel like lovely is a positive word, right? So I feel like that fits that. I also have on my TBR Kingdom of Flesh and Fire and Slay the Vampire Conqueror. See, I'm getting back into my fantasy realm. There's some other books that I might want to read as well, but that's kind of the gist of it. And then I have my genre trackers. I love these because when I finish reading a book, I just come in here, write it out, fill it out, write if it was like audio, whatever, the date completed, and then I do my rating here. And then anytime I want, I can come back and like fill in the trackers after the fact. So that's why I do keep it in a couple of places. And I did alter the fantasy and the romance ones to include a spice rating. All right, I think that's it, y'all. That was a lot. Like, I need something to drink now. I'm a little parched. I felt like I was chatting a lot there, but, you know, I guess that's what these reading wrap-ups are, right? So that is a look at my reading journal as well as my January reading recap. I do hope you enjoy these videos. I love watching them, so that's why I decided to film them myself. Plus, maybe it might give you some ideas of either books to read or things to put in your reading journal. So if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. And if you're not yet subscribed, also consider hitting that subscribe button. All right, guys, I hope you have a good rest of your day, evening, or night. Until next time, bye.